The parking lot behind Miller's Diner sat empty, except for a single beaten Honda Civic and the girl crumpled beside it. Sarah Chen's vision swam as another boot connected with her ribs, the metallic taste of blood sharp on her tongue. 3 figures circled her like wolves Derek Mason and his crew, the same boys who'd made her senior year hell since she'd testified against Derek's cousin for dealing meth at the high school. "You should have kept your mouth shut," Derek hissed, grabbing a fistful of her dark hair. What they didn't see were the shadows at the edge of the lot. What they didn't hear was the low rumble of 47 Harley-Davidsons cutting their engines 2 blocks away. And what they definitely didn't know was that the scared girl bleeding on the asphalt was the daughter of Marcus "Ghost" Chen, a man who died saving the life of Jackson Reaper Stone, the president of the Devil's Ridge Charter of the Hells Angels. Sarah had never met these men, never asked for their protection, didn't even know they existed, but they'd been watching over her for 3 years, ever since Ghost took his last breath in Reaper's arms, making him promise one thing: keep my girl safe. She doesn't know about the life. Keep it that way. Just watch over her. Tonight, that promise was about to become very real. Sarah tried to curl into herself as another kick landed. She'd known this was coming. Derek had been making threats for weeks, ever since his cousin got 15 years. But knowing and experiencing were 2 different things. Her phone lay shattered 3 feet away. Her pepper spray kicked into a storm drain. She was alone, or so she thought. "That's enough." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, deep as thunder and twice as menacing. Derek spun around and Sarah managed to lift her head enough to see him go pale. Through her blurred vision, she made out a wall of leather and denim. Men built like bears, covered in ink, their faces hard as granite. The patches on their vests gleamed under the streetlight. Hell's Angels. Devil's Ridge. At the front stood a man who looked carved from stone, 6'4", graying beard, eyes like ice chips. The way the others flanked him, the way he held himself, told Sarah everything. This was a man who commanded absolute loyalty. "Who the hell?" Derek started. "I said, that's enough." Reaper's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. He took 1 step forward, and Derek's 2 friends bolted, leaving Derek frozen in place. Sarah watched, consciousness fading, as Reaper crouched down to Derek's level. He didn't touch him, didn't need to. "You know who we are?" Reaper asked softly. Derek nodded, terror bright in his eyes. "Good. Then you know we don't make threats, we make promises." Reaper stood towering over the boy. "You and your friends are going to leave town. Tonight, you're going to tell anyone who asks that you fell down some stairs, all 3 of you. And you're never coming back to Devil's Ridge. Not for holidays, not for weddings, not for funerals. This town is dead to you now. But my parents will understand when I visit them tomorrow." Reaper's smile was colder than a January wind. "Now run." Derek ran. Sarah drifted in and out as gentle hands lifted her. She heard voices, low and urgent. "Hospital? No." "Doc Morris?" Can't risk questions. Jesus, Reaper. If Ghost could see her now. He can't, but we can, and we failed him tonight. The voice above her cracked, just slightly. "We should have been closer. We can't be everywhere, brother. We should have been here." Sarah felt herself loaded onto something soft, a motorcycle sidecar. She'd realize later, and then the world dissolved into engine rumble and the smell of leather and motor oil. She woke in a small clinic that smelled of antiseptic and coffee. An older man with kind eyes and steady hands was checking her pupils with a penlight. "Easy, sweetheart," Doc Morris said. "You got a concussion, 3 cracked ribs and more bruises than I care to count, but you're going to be fine." The man from the parking lot, Reaper, stood by the window, his back to her, shoulders rigid. In the fluorescent light, she could see the patches on his vest more clearly. President, Hamsey 1%. "Who are you?" Her voice came out as a rasp. Reaper turned, and Sarah saw something flicker across his face. Pain. Guilt. Something deeper. "A friend of your father's," he said simply. Sarah's chest tightened, not from the broken ribs. "My dad died when I was 15. Car accident." "That's what my mom said." "Your mom told you what she thought you needed to hear." Reaper moved closer, and Sarah saw the years on his face, the weight he carried. "Marcus Chen Ghost was my brother, not by blood, but by choice. He saved my life, and when he died, He made me promise to look after you." "Look after me? I've never even seen you before." That was the point. Reaper pulled up a chair, moving like every muscle ached. "Your dad wanted you to have a normal life. No club, no outlaw world. Just school and friends and a future that didn't involve watching your back every second. So we watched it for you." "For 3 years." Sarah couldn't process it. "You've been following me for 3 years. Not following. Protecting." A younger biker stepped forward, his patch reading Vice President. "I'm Lucas. Stitched to the club. I'm usually your Tuesday and Thursday shadow. You get coffee at Morrison's before your shift at the library. Always a vanilla latte, extra foam." Another man, stockier, with a scar through his eyebrow. "I'm Tommy. Wrench. I take Mondays and Wednesdays. You volunteer at the animal shelter on Monday afternoons. You're real good with the pit bulls. Nobody else wants to touch." "Fridays and weekends rotate," Reaper said. "We've got 53 members in this charter. Every single one of them knows your face, your schedule, your car. Every single one of them would die before they let anyone hurt you." Sarah's hand shook. "Why? You didn't owe me anything. We owed your father everything." Reaper's voice went rough. 5 years ago, we had a situation with a rival club. The Iron Jackals out of Bridgeport. They ambushed us, 10 of them against 5 of us. Ghost was doing security work, happened to be in the area. He wasn't even wearing a cut then, wasn't officially patched in, but he saw us getting slaughtered and he waded in anyway. Reaper's fist clenched on the chair arm. He took 3 bullets meant for me, stayed on his feet long enough to make sure we all got out, died in my arms, telling me about his daughter. About how smart she was, how she wanted to be a teacher, how she had her mother's smile and his stubborn streak. Made me swear I'd keep you safe, keep you separate from this life. But let me know she existed," Reaper continued, his voice barely above a whisper, "because he wanted someone to remember him, even if you never knew us." Sarah sat up despite Doc Morris's protests. "So what now? You saved me. Promise kept, right?" "It doesn't work like that," Stitch said. "Derek and his boys are gone, but they're going to talk. People are going to know the angels stepped in. The Iron Jackals, the club your dad died fighting, they're going to wonder why we care about a civilian girl." "Which means you're in more danger now than before," Reaper said bluntly. "We can't put the genie back in the bottle. The only way to keep you safe is to make it official." "Make what official?" "You become protected. Officially, under the club's banner." Reaper met her eyes. "It doesn't mean you join. Doesn't mean you ride. It means your family. It means anyone who touches you answers to all 53 of us. It means we stop hiding in the shadows." Sarah's mind spun. 12 hours ago, her biggest problem was a term paper on Steinbeck. Now she was sitting in an illegal clinic surrounded by outlaw bikers, learning her dead father was a hero, and she'd been under secret protection for years. "What if I say no? We keep protecting you," Reaper said, "but it gets harder, more dangerous for everyone, including us." A woman's voice cut through the tension. "Let me talk to her." Sarah looked up to see a woman in her 40s, dark hair shot through with gray, wearing jeans and a leather jacket with a property patch. But her eyes were kind, and when she smiled, Sarah saw crow's feet earned from years of laughter. "I'm Maria, Reaper's wife." She shooed the men away with practiced ease. "Give us a minute, you bunch of hovering mother hens." When they were alone, Maria sat on the edge of the exam table. "I know this is overwhelming. Trust me, I remember. I was a kindergarten teacher when I met Jack. That's Reaper's real name, by the way, though don't call him that in front of the boys." How do you deal with this?" Sarah asked. "The danger? The lifestyle?" Maria shrugged. "You learn that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who keeps their promises even when it's hard." She took Sarah's hand. "Your dad showed up for them when he had no reason to. Now they're showing up for you. That's what Brotherhood means." They're our event 2 days at Doc Morris's clinic, healing and thinking. The angels took shifts, sitting outside her door, not guarding her as much as just being there. She learned their names, their stories. Wrench had a daughter Sarah's age, studying engineering at State. Stitch had pulled himself out of addiction with the club's help, been sober 6 years. A man called Kodiak made the best chocolate chip cookies Sarah had ever tasted, brought her a fresh batch every morning. They weren't what she'd expected. They were rough, yes. Dangerous, certainly. But they were also funny, thoughtful, and fiercely loyal. They asked about her classes, her dreams of teaching, her favorite books. They treated her like a person, not an obligation. On the third day, Reaper brought her breakfast, actual good coffee and pastries from Morrison's. "I've been thinking," Sarah said, "about my dad." Reaper sat, waiting. Mom never talked about how he died, just said it was sudden, that he was a good man. Sarah wrapped her hands around the coffee cup. "Was he happy? With you guys?" "Happier than I'd ever seen him," Reaper said honestly. "Ghost spent years drifting, looking for something. When he found us, found the Brotherhood, he'd found his place. He was going to Prospect, officially join, but he wanted to wait until you were in college. Didn't want you to worry. Would he want this, me being part of it?" "He'd want you safe," Reaper said. "And if this is what it takes, then yes. But Sarah, you need to understand, being under our protection means you're in our world now. You'll meet people who judge you for it. You'll lose friends. It's not an easy road." Sarah thought about Derek, about the fear in his eyes when the angels appeared, about the 3 years she'd been protected without knowing it, about her father, who died saving strangers because it was the right thing to do. "Okay," she said, "I'm in. But I have conditions." Reaper raised an eyebrow. "I finish school. I become a teacher like I planned, and I don't want to just be protected. I want to help. Your guys have families, right? Kids?" 14 kids among the members, Reaper confirmed. "Then I'll tutor them, help with homework. Be useful, not just dead weight." Sarah met his eyes. "My dad saved you because that's who he was. I want to honor that. I want to be someone he'd be proud of." For the first time since the parking lot, Reaper smiled, really smiled. He already would be, kid. The clubhouse was nothing like Sarah expected. Yes, there was a bar and a pool table, and the smell of motor oil and leather, but there were also family photos on the walls, a coffee maker with a dozen mismatched mugs, and a corner filled with toys for when members brought their kids. The 53 members of Devil's Ridge stood as Sarah entered, Reaper at her side. She felt their eyes on her, assessing, curious, protective. "Brothers," Reaper's voice filled the room. "Sisters, this is Sarah Chen, Ghost's daughter. From this day forward, she's under our protection. She's family." A chorus of approval, fists pounding on tables. "Anyone touches her answers to all of us," Reaper continued. "Anyone threatens her answers to me personally. She's not property. She's not an old lady. She's our sister. Ghost's legacy. And we will honor that with our lives." "Damn right," Wrench called out. Sarah stepped forward, hard hammering. "I know I'm not a member. I'm not going to pretend I understand your world or that I've earned my place here. But my dad died for you, for this Brotherhood. And I want to honor that. So I'm offering what I can. I'll tutor your kids, help with schoolwork, be there if you need someone who isn't connected to all this." Stitch laughed. "You're going to regret that offer when you meet Wrench's kid. Girl's brilliant, but she hates algebra like it personally insulted her." "I'm really good at algebra," Sarah said, surprised by her own smile. Maria stepped forward with a leather jacket, not a cut, but a simple jacket with an embroidered patch on the back, protected by Hamsey Devil's Ridge, Ghost's daughter. "Welcome to the family, sweetheart," Maria said, helping her into it. And for the first time since her father died, Sarah felt like she'd come home. 3 weeks into her new life, Sarah sat in the clubhouse's back room, now converted into a study space, helping Wrench's daughter Jessica through a particularly brutal algebra problem. Around them, the sounds of the club filtered through, laughter, the clack of pool balls, someone arguing good-naturedly about a Broncos game. "I still don't get why we need to find X," Jessica groaned. "Who cares where X is? Future you will care when you're calculating structural loads for bridges," Sarah said, adding another step to the equation. "You want to be a civil engineer, right?" "Yeah, but then X matters, trust me." Kodiak's son, Marcus, named after Ghost, Sarah had learned, poked his head in. At 13, he was all gangly limbs and enthusiasm. "Sarah, Dad wants to know if you're staying for dinner. We're doing burgers. Actual burgers or Kodiak's experimental burgers?" Sarah asked warily. Last week's bacon pineapple FLMEO creation still haunted her. Mom banned experiments after Uncle Stitch threatened to revoke his kitchen privileges. Then yes, I'm staying. This was her life now. Tutoring sessions after her own classes, family dinners at the clubhouse, learning the subtle hierarchies and unwritten rules of the club. The members treated her like a little sister, protective, but not smothering, welcoming her presence without demanding she become something she wasn't. She'd lost friends, just as Reaper warned. When word spread that she was connected to the Angels, half her study group stopped responding to texts. Her roommate requested a transfer. But she'd gained something too, a family that actually showed up. Sarah noticed him on a Tuesday, a man in a black leather vest, differed patches, watching from across the street as she left Morrison's with her vanilla latte. He didn't approach, just watched, and something about the cold calculation in his eyes made her skin crawl. She texted Stitch, whose day it was to shadow her, black vest, red patches, across from Morrison's. Her phone buzzed immediately. Get inside. Now. Sarah ducked back into the coffee shop, heart hammering. Through the window she saw Stitch's bike roar up, followed by 3 more. The stranger was already gone. 20 minutes later, she sat in the clubhouse as Reaper studied a photo Wrench had pulled from traffic cameras. Iron jackals, Reaper said, his voice dead calm, which Sarah had learned was when he was most dangerous. That's Marcus Blade Cordero. He's second in command of their Bridgeport chapter. Why now? Maria asked, standing behind Sarah's chair protectively. It's been 5 years since Ghost. Because Sarah's visible now, Stitch said. We kept her hidden for 3 years. Now every criminal network in 3 states knows the Angels have a protected civilian. They're testing us, seeing if we're serious. Or they're trying to finish what they started, Wrench growled. Ghost took out 4 of their best fighters before he went down. Jackals hold grudges. Sarah's coffee sat forgotten, going cold. What do they want? To hurt us, Reaper said simply. Best way to hurt a club is to go after family. That's why we don't usually bring civilians in, makes them targets. Then maybe I should leave, Sarah said quietly. Go somewhere else. You've done enough. No. The word came from a dozen throats at once. Reaper leaned forward. We didn't keep you safe for 3 years just to abandon you now. This is what Brotherhood means. We face threats together. I want to hear from you. What do you think Sarah should do? Should she trust the Angels to protect her, or is she putting them in too much danger? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed, because this story is about to get intense. The Iron Jackals don't play games, and neither do the Angels. The war room, a basement space Sarah hadn't seen before, was all business. Maps on the walls, photos of rival club members, a whiteboard covered in routes and schedules. Jackals are smart. Reaper addressed the 15 members, present his officers and most trusted brothers. They won't come at us directly. They'll wait for an opening, a moment when Sarah's vulnerable. So we don't give them one, Stitch said. We increase patrols, double up on shadows. That's playing defense, a man called Hammer said. He was one of the older members, arms covered in faded military tattoos. We need to send a message. Show them touching Ghost's daughter means war. We're not starting a war over intimidation, Reaper said firmly. Ghost died stopping violence. I won't dishonor his memory by escalating unless we have no choice. So what do we do? Wrench asked. Sarah surprised herself by speaking up. We let them think they have an opening. Every eye turned to her. You want to use yourself as bait? Reaper's voice could have frozen fire. I want to stop hiding, Sarah said. If they're watching, they know my schedule, my routes, everything, so we use that. We give them what looks like an opportunity, but it's actually a trap. Absolutely not, Maria said. Wait. Stitch held up a hand, thoughtful. She might have a point. If we're too obvious about protection, they'll just wait us out. Could take months. But if we make it look like we got sloppy. Set up a controlled scenario, Hammer nodded slowly. Somewhere we choose, with our people in position. You're all insane, Maria said flatly. She's a college student not trained for this. Which is why it would work, Sarah argued. They expect me to be scared, helpless. I play that role while you handle the actual danger. Reaper studied her for a long moment. Sarah saw Ghost in him, then not physically, but in the way he weighed honor against pragmatism, protection against respect for her agency. Your father would kill me, Reaper finally said. My father saved your life knowing he might die, Sarah countered. He made choices. Let me make mine. They spent a week planning. Sarah's role was simple: follow her normal Thursday routine, but take a specific route home that passed through an industrial area, isolated enough to tempt the jackals, controlled enough for the angels to manage. The night before, Sarah couldn't sleep. She found Maria in the clubhouse kitchen at 2 a.m. making tea. Can't sleep either? Maria asked, pulling down a second mug. Terrified, Sarah admitted. Is that normal? Completely. Maria poured chamomile, added honey. Fear means you're taking this seriously. That's good. It's the people who aren't afraid that get hurt. How do you live with it? The constant danger? Maria was quiet for a moment. I choose to focus on what we have, not what we could lose. Jack Reaper's a good man in a complicated world. The club, it's given broken men a place to heal, to be better. Your father found that. These men honored him by keeping you safe when they could have just forgotten their promise. Do you think my dad would be angry about me doing this? I think, Maria said carefully, Ghost would be proud that his daughter is brave enough to stand up instead of hiding. But he'd also want you to be smart about it, which is why you have 15 angels positioned tomorrow with 3 more as backup, and me on standby with Doc Morris in case anything goes wrong. Sarah sipped her tea. I'm glad you're here. It makes this feel less overwhelming. That's what family does, Maria smiled. We make the unbearable bearable. Thursday afternoon, Sarah's hands shook as she locked the library after her shift. The industrial district loomed ahead, abandoned warehouses, empty lots, the perfect place for an ambush. She knew Stitch was 3 blocks behind on his bike. Wrench and Hammer were already in position inside a warehouse. Reaper and 5 others were hidden in various tactical positions. But knowing and feeling safe were different things. She was halfway through the district when a black van pulled alongside her Honda. Her heart hammered, but she kept driving, exactly as planned. The van swerved, forcing her to brake. 2 men got out, one she recognized as Blade from the photos, the other heavily scarred with dead eyes. Sarah grabbed her phone, hands shaking, and stepped out of her car as planned. I don't want trouble. Too late for that, sweetheart, Blade said, pulling a knife. Your daddy killed my brother 5 years ago. Time to even the score. My dad was protecting his friends, Sarah said, voice steadier than she felt. Your dad was a dead man who didn't know when to mind his business. Blade advanced, and now as Brad is going to learn what happens when you cross the iron jackals. The scarred man grabbed Sarah's arm and she didn't fight, couldn't, without breaking cover. But then she heard it, the roar of engines coming from every direction. Bikes poured into the district like a mechanical cavalry. Blade spun, realizing too late that he'd walked into a trap. Let her go. Reaper's voice was death itself as he dismounted, 15 angels flanking him. Last warning. Blade still had his knife to Sarah's throat. You think you can protect her forever? We'll just wait. No, Reaper said, you won't. Because if you walk away right now, you get to keep breathing. You ever come near her again, ever threaten this family again, and we end this war. Permanently. All of us against all of you, and we both know how that ends. The scarred man's hand loosened on Sarah's arm. She could feel his fear. Your brother died because he ambushed us, Reaper continued. Ghost gave him a fair fight, more than he deserved. You want revenge? Come at me. I'm right here. But leave Ghost's daughter alone, or I swear to God I'll burn your whole club to the ground. The silence stretched. Then Blade lowered his knife. This isn't over, he said, backing toward the van. Yes, Reaper said quietly. It is. Tell your president the debt is paid. Ghost died saving my life. His daughter lives under our protection. That's the end of the story. Walk away, or make it a new beginning to a very short war. The jackals left, tires screeching. Sarah's knees gave out, and Stitch caught her. You did good, kid. Real good. That night, the clubhouse was packed. Word had spread about the confrontation, and members from neighboring charters had come to show solidarity. Sarah sat in the middle of it all, wrapped in a blanket, drinking hot chocolate that Kodiak had made with extra marshmallows. "You shouldn't have done that," Reaper said, sitting beside her. "Used yourself as bait." "It worked," Sarah pointed out. "It could have gotten you killed. It could have gotten you all killed if we'd waited for them to strike first." Sarah met his eyes. "My dad didn't hide from danger. He ran toward it to save people. Maybe I'm more like him than you thought." Reaper was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Ghost would have been so proud of you. Hell, I'm proud of you. But don't do that to me again. My heart can't take it." "Deal," Sarah said, "as long as you stop treating me like I'm made of glass." "Can't promise that. You're Ghost's daughter. That makes you precious cargo." Maria joined them, sliding an arm around Sarah's shoulders. "The Jackal's president just called. They're backing off. Officially. Blade exceeded his authority, and they don't want a war any more than we do." Relief flooded through Sarah. "So it's really over?" "This chapter is," Reaper said. "There'll be others. That's the life. But we faced them together." 6 months later, Sarah stood at her father's grave for the first time since learning the truth. The headstone was simple. Marcus, Ghost Chen, beloved father, true brother. Reaper stood beside her, along with Stitch, Wrench, Kodiak, and Maria. The whole club had wanted to come, but she'd asked for just her closest family. "I wish I'd known," Sarah said quietly, "about who you really were, about what you did." "He wanted to tell you," Reaper said. "Planned to, once you were older. He just ran out of time." Sarah placed flowers on the grave, not roses, but wildflowers, the kind her dad used to pick for her when she was little. "I'm a teaching assistant now, elementary education, and I'm still tutoring the club kids." Jessica got an A in algebra. "He'd love that," Maria said. "I hope so." Sarah touched the headstone. "I hope he knows I found a family, that his brothers kept their promise, that I'm not alone." "He knows," Reaper said with certainty. "Wherever he is, Ghost knows, and he's at peace." They stood there for a while, the autumn wind rustling through the cemetery trees. Then Sarah turned to face them, her family, chosen not by blood but by loyalty, by sacrifice, by love. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for keeping your promise, for giving me a place to belong. Your Ghost's legacy," Stitch said. "We're just honored to be part of your story." As they walked back to their bikes, Sarah felt something settle in her chest, a sense of rightness, of belonging. Her father had found his family in the Devil's Ridge Charter, and now, 3 years after his death, his daughter had found hers too. The roar of engines filled the air as they rode out together, the sun setting over Devil's Ridge. Somewhere, Sarah thought, her father was smiling, and that's Sarah's story, from being alone and vulnerable to finding family in the most unexpected place. What touched your heart most about this journey? Was it Reaper keeping his promise, the club's loyalty, Sarah's bravery? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now, because I've got more emotional biker stories coming your way. Next time, we're diving into a story about a Hell's Angel who saved a child from a burning building and discovered the child's mother was someone from his past. You won't want to miss it. Until then, ride safe, and remember, family isn't always about blood. Sometimes, it's about who shows up when it matters most.